Hey y'all, it's Jennifer, your weird aunt, and I wanted to show y'all one of my absolute favorite recipes. This is the only makeup or foundation that I will ever use ever again until my skin needs change, which they probably will as I get older. But right now, this is absolutely perfect, and all it's made up of is mostly arrowroot powder and matcha. And I use it every day. And not only does this foundation give you a little bit of coverage to kind of even you out, it also is very healthful to your skin, or at least to mine. I have very oily skin, and I also have rosacea, and my skin is very sensitive, and so it gets red really easily. But this always seems to keep my skin calm, and it keeps me from being oily all day. I have never used anything that has worked better than this, and it is the easiest thing that I make. Seriously, y'all, if you have oily skin especially, this is something that you're definitely going to want to try. So give me just a second and I'll set it up, and I will show you exactly how easy it is to make this stuff. Okay, so the main ingredient in this recipe is arrowroot powder. Arrowroot powder is often used as a thickener in vegan recipes and gluten-free recipes because it is a thickener made from arrowroot, obviously. But it starts the same way for everyone, and that is 2 tablespoons of arrowroot powder. There's that, and I just use a bowl. It's best not to use metal when your recipe is going to have clay in it, which mine will. And especially if you have oily skin, you're definitely going to want to use some clay in there. And also, a surprising ingredient, which I forgot to get out, is cocoa powder, which I will find in my cabinet eventually without destroying my kitchen. Maybe. There it is. Okay. See, I'm so unprepared. It's been a while since I've done a video. I've been extremely overtaxed with finding a better job, and my work has been a little bit crazy lately, and I'm just kind of in a mood. But anyway, so there's 2 tablespoons of arrowroot powder, real easy. Now it varies depending on your skin type. You might want to use things like nutmeg, clove, and things like that. And I'll link the original recipe down below. But I've made, of course, my Jennifer alterations, which I always make, and I believe that mine is going to work out better, because the thing about or spices like nutmeg and clove is they can be irritating to some people. And because I have sensitive skin, I prefer not to risk it. I have done this recipe using sage and some nutmeg, but I really prefer to use something else. Actually, 2 other things. Slippery elm, which provides some nice glide for when you apply it, and milk thistle powder, which is one of the absolute best things in the world for people with rosacea. And again, mostly it's matcha, and I do also use some cocoa powder. But let me start with the matcha. And I actually tend to do more probably than the original recipe calls for, which the original recipe basically leaves it up to you, and it only uses kitchen spices, things like as I said, nutmeg and things like that. But again, because I have all of these ingredients on hand most of the time, it's easier for me to do this. And if you want to try any of these more these less common ingredients like milk thistle powder or slippery elm powder, then of course you can find it online, or you can find it at your local herb shop or holistic shop. They typically carry bulk herbs. So I put 2 teaspoons of matcha in there because I like, again, the matcha serves a dual purpose, at least in my case. Because matcha is also very, very good for sensitive skin and rosacea, and it's also good for oily skin. It's a natural astringent green tea, and it's just got so many benefits. It's one of those miraculous things, green tea. And I use it in every product I put on my face, including my face wash and even my my wintertime moisturizer that I use during the day. And it's basically in everything I put on my face because it's so good for your skin. No, really, it's good for all types of skin, but it's really good if you have rosacea or sensitive skin. I put 2 teaspoons of that. And I'm probably only going to put about a teaspoon of cocoa powder. But cocoa powder actually is pretty good for your skin too. It's got lots of good antioxidants, just like chocolate does, because it is chocolate. And it's also good to use as a colorant, because if you don't have red skin like I do, then then matcha is going to, it might give you a little bit of a green tinge, but although granted you don't get a whole lot of color from this, but if you want to try to color match, then cocoa powder is one of the best things. And actually milk thistle powder would be good too, because milk thistle powder is also really good for all skin types, but it's really, really good if you have rosacea. So I'm probably just going to put a teaspoon of the milk thistle in there, and you see the color there. If you're Caucasian or maybe Hispanic, then that might be a good one as well for your coloring. But again, I don't worry as much about the color as I do about the benefits, because y'all, I mean, seriously, like I said, I've tried all kinds of makeup. I've tried all kinds of foundations. I actually haven't worn actual liquid foundation in many years. I quit wearing makeup about 15-20 years ago. But I do use this and this only every day because of the benefits and because it keeps me from looking so oily, which I do after about an hour of wearing any kind of liquid makeup I've ever tried. And this is the only thing that works well for me. And I'm going to put another teaspoon of just the slippery elm. And again, that's a good, and I like to use a plastic. One of these is perfect. These are actually kind of made for salons where you mix up color, but they're perfect for if you want to start DIYing your skincare. And of course, they're good for marinades and stuff like that too. So there's those, and I'm also going to put some Bentonite Clay in there. Again, Bentonite is a very good one for oily skin because Bentonite does have some great oil control benefits to it. Bentonite is different from other clays in that it's got some volcanic ash in there, and of course that provides you with a lot of good minerals. But I put a tablespoon of the bentonite in there because I need that for my oil control. And again, you can vary this recipe however you want. If you have drier skin, you might want to try something like white kaolin clay or rose clay, which would also be very good for coloring if you have kind of more of a rose leaf kind of complexion. But again, with me, the main thing I need as far as color is a little bit of correction because my cheeks always get red no matter the season. In the summertime, it's because I'm hot, and in the wintertime, it's because the wind chaps my cheeks, and the cold actually kind of shrinks those blood vessels in my face. And I do have a couple little busted blood vessels in my cheeks, which is an effect of rosacea for some. Okay, and this is my favorite kind of clay. French green clay is absolutely the best for, again, oily and sensitive skin, because it's got a little bit of sea moss in it. Like Irish sea moss is another really good ingredient. I use Irish moss powder sometimes in this recipe as well, and I actually might again, I just forgot it. And I'm going to put about a tablespoon of this in there. And y'all, I'm telling you, this foundation will last forever. I mean, I usually only make this twice a year because one batch will last me about 6 months. And the way I apply it is with a kabuki brush, and you can find a kabuki brush basically anywhere these days. I've got mine on Amazon. It's a really nice one, and the kabuki is kind of like the kind of brush you want to use if you use like any kind of mineral makeup. But I've tried mineral makeup as well, and it still kept my face oily, because I think in this recipe the magic ingredients are the arrowroot, which is wonderful at sucking up excess oil, but it doesn't take too much. And the green tea and the clays are what really seem to help with this recipe. And I'm going to run real quick and grab my Irish moss powder. And I actually use Irish moss in most of my facial recipes as well, because it's actually has carrageenan in it, which is good for aging skin, and again, it's very good for sensitive skin. And it's just really, it kind of helps with your skin's elasticity, because carrageenan is the stuff that they use in vegan ice cream to thicken it up. It's another thickener. And I've noticed that a lot of things used as thickeners are really good at absorbing oil, and that makes sense, because these particles suck in all of that excess oil. And so there's all of my dry ingredients, and it's mostly dry ingredients. You only use a few drops of the essential oils. And so there's my color. And again, I use it for correction, because that's why it's green for me. But it's depending on your skin type, then you can adjust the color. Use it, like I said. You can also use chamomile powder, which is really good for your skin if you have sensitive skin. It's just that for me, the yellow is a little bit too much for me, because I'm more of a red/blue issue. Alright, and I think I've got, yeah, okay. Alright, and so it's usually going to be 15 drops of essential oils, and I've got a little bit more, so I might use 20, but you really don't want a lot of essential oils in this, because they will clump up. They will make it too oily, basically. So you just need a few drops of it to kind of help it stick and to offer those benefits. That I'm going to use 10 drops of tea tree, which is typically I use tea tree in all of my facial concoctions, because it's the best thing in the world for acne, the best thing in the world for oily skin. It's also really good for, imagine that, rosacea. And I try to space out my drops so they don't clump too much, and I try to kind of go in and stir it up every time I add an oil, again, to make sure. And you might end up with some little clumps, but again, that's another reason you want to use the little whisk, because it helps to break those up. You can also use a plastic fork, but again, as I said before, if you're using clay, then metals can change the charge of clays, and that can cause them to become ineffective. So you want to try to use ceramics and plastics when you use clays. Same thing with essential oils for the most part, although I do sometimes use metal when I'm doing scrubs and stuff. But again, especially stuff with my face and where I really want the benefits of the essential oil, I don't use metal. Okay, and I'm also going to use German chamomile. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful for rosacea and sensitive skin. German chamomile can be really expensive, and yes, it is supposed to be blue. I'm only using 3 drops of that. Actually, I think I might use 4. German chamomile is one of my favorite essential oils. I love how it smells. It's really kind of expensive, but I actually get this brand on Amazon, this Good Pure Gold essential oils. A lot of people put in negative reviews about them, but I absolutely love them. They're more cost effective, and they are true essential oils, although a lot of the reviews say, oh, this isn't real. But most of the people who say this isn't real are not as familiar with essential oil, or they're trying to sell Young Living or doTERRA, which are exorbitant, and I will never buy them, just so you know. Now, I get it if you feel like that is the best. I understand, but just don't, approach me with your doTERRA or your Young Living, because they're overpriced, bottom line. Okay. But again, like this is an ounce of German chamomile. For this brand, I still pay about $35 for an ounce, which is why I try to use it sparingly. Okay, cypress. Cypress is another dual benefit oil for me. It's wonderful for rosacea, and it's also good for oily skin. So it's amazing to me how many things are not only good for, that are good for both rosacea and oily skin, because most products you can buy out there for rosacea focus on dry skin, but it's not necessarily that we have dry skin. It's just that we have this condition that that they think that it has to do with the capillaries under your skin, and that's part of the problem of why you turn red and why you end up with little busted blood vessels sometimes. It has nothing to do with being dry. So yeah, okay. So cypress is another of my favorites, and I want to put 3 of these, if it'll come out. Come on, cypress. Let's go, buddy. There we go. Well, I ended up with 4. Won't kill me. Okay. Love cypress. I also use cypress in all of my facial concoctions because of those benefits that are particular to me. And again, you put this on just like you would any mineral makeup or any mineral foundation with a kabuki brush. Okay. And this is spike lavender. Spike lavender is not the same thing as regular lavender, but it has a lot of the similar benefits, and it has a similar smell. Spike lavender is more like a combination of lavender and eucalyptus. It's got more of a little bit of more of a camphorous effect, although it's not as powerful as eucalyptus. And it also has more antibacterial properties than lavender does, regular lavender. So I'm going to put 4, well, I ended up with 5, 6 in there. But again, I put more. I made more than the recipe calls for because I add extra stuff. But this actually looks like a really good batch to me. Like I said, this will last me about 6 months. I keep it in this little container. You can find these, you can find something similar in, again, natural, holistic places, and you can find them online really easily. I believe this is about a 2-ounce jar, and it's perfect. Again, and I also have a 1-ounce jar that I bring with me everywhere with this in it, and I have a travel kabuki brush that I use for touch-ups. But I only need touch-ups in the summertime. In the wintertime, my skin looks smooth and non-oily all day with this stuff, especially in the cooler months. And again, like I said, I have never tried anything else that works this well. So you will never find me without this. I actually ran out before I went to work yesterday, and I was so mad. I was like, no! You know, like, I gotta make some more, because I just can't I can't express how big a deal it is for me to have found something that works. And it really is to me. Okay, but that's it. That's all you have to do at this point. I'm just going to put it in my containers, and there you go, and just start using it. And that is, like I said, that is one of the easiest things you can make, that I make, and it is also my favorite thing that I make. I'm not wearing it right now, so I'm shiny. You know, but like I said, it's a really big deal for me to have found something that works so well, because throughout my teenage years, throughout my earlier years, I tried so many products until I finally decided to just give up on makeup altogether and stop wearing it. And although that's fine, it really is, but my skin would still get oily. I had these little red patches from the rosacea and irritation and things like that. But this actually soothes my skin while it is keeping me looking fresher and not as oily. And honestly, I have put on. I've done I'll eventually do a video about my entire skincare regime, but I'm not going to do that right now. But I use my face wash in the morning. I use my apple cider vinegar toner, and I use whichever moisturizer I'm using for the season. Which for the summer I use just my serum, and now that it's turning cooler, I use what I call my Mermaid Lotion. It's basically, they call it Mermaid Lotion, but it's my version of it for my skin. And Mermaid Lotion, they call it that because the basis of it is Irish moss powder. And my skin loves this stuff. I'm only like 85% United Kingdom blood. You know, it's either English, Scotch, or Irish. And so my skin loves stuff like this, okay? It loves these kind of mosses that grow in cool, wet areas. Which it makes sense to me. But anyway, and I always use that. And then I put on a sunscreen, which I do not make sunscreen. I've mentioned this before, but if you want to DIY your skincare, the one thing you should not DIY is sunscreen, because you cannot measure the SPF, and you're going to end up getting burnt if you trust it entirely. And it's also a pain to make. I'm sure that there are tons of recipes out there for it. It's just I choose not to make it for myself. If you find one that you can measure, the only way you can measure SPF is through testing, you know, and I've tried mineral sunscreens, and they're way too thick for me. So what I use is the Neutrogena Sheer broad spectrum. I use it every day, SPF 55. I use that, and then I put on my makeup. And after I put on, like sometimes when it's, you know, when my skin, when it's getting a little bit chapped, especially, or when I've just come out of a hot shower, my skin is super red. And and usually my lotion will cool it off, and it won't be red anymore. But sometimes after I put my sunscreen on, it's still red. As soon as I put this on, not only is the red cut, but my skin cools down really a lot. And I can feel it, and I can see it, and it's just a miraculous thing. It's working on your skin the whole time it's on it. It's improving your skin the whole time it's on it. So if anybody has any questions about this recipe, again, I'll link the original recipe that I found online down below. It's one of those, like, all recipe things are where they have to tell you the story of their lives, which I don't like. But, you know, it's a good recipe. Just scroll down to the bottom and ignore the rest of the stuff unless you want to read it. It never interests me at all. But I'll link it down below, and you can check that out. And again, just keep in mind that you can alter this with whatever powders and clays you want to use, whatever essential oils. If you have any questions about what powders and clays that you should use for your skin or what essential oils, just send me a message, comment, and let me know. I'll look it up, or I'll usually know the answer and give you a recommendation. And please like and subscribe. I'm going to try to be doing more of these videos, hopefully when things calm down, especially as far as work and everything, and I get a new job. And I'm not miserable all the time because I'm poor. Just like and subscribe. I do a lot of videos about various things. I do unboxings, I do unbaggings. I'm eventually going to start doing some cooking videos, things like that. And I'm probably going to philosophize on occasion about certain things, which I've been kind of looking into aphantasia, because I have it, which is a really interesting subject to me. But anyway, like, subscribe, try the recipe, let me know if you have any questions, or let me know if you want me to make it for you. Excuse me, I'm happy to do that as well. Excuse me, I don't talk a lot. So, alright, well, thanks y'all for watching, and I hope that you try this and that you love it as much as I do.